Phoenix is rising, Coach T here, and it is early in the morning, and the battle is real, but here I am. So please bear with me. Tonight's or this morning's topic is perseverance, and basically persevering, pardon me, persevering when frustrating, it can seem exhausting, and it is. It is frustrating, it is exhausting. It sometimes will make us feel as if, hey, I know I won the battle. I fought a hard war. I'm all I want to do is heal and re-strategize, et cetera, right? We all have this. And I just want to tell you guys, don't give up. And I'm saying don't give up because I know I was close a couple weeks ago. I was close because and it's not just the views aren't getting. I know that I'm being spiritually shadow banned. So let me, because my internet keeps going off and on, but I'm gonna keep going. And I like to do. I'm gonna do Psalms 91 only tonight or this morning because my normal setup is not available right now. So, and I just got some chill step music on, so bear with me. But here is Psalm. We're gonna say Psalms 91. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 shall, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because he has said, made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation, there shall no evil befall thee. Neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling, for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear, bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot on me. Therefore will I deliver him. I will set him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life will I satisfy him and shew him my salvation. Amen and Ashe and Asheo. So let's get back to it, to persevering through a malignant narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, that whole cluster B cocktail, and their obsession to win at any cost. Um, and this is going to be short. I'm not going to stay on here for very long because I am tired. And that, which is reason, again, the reason for this topic is, I have had my stalkers have moved, two especially, not the whole kit and caboodle, from, because I was living in Sacramento, California, and that's a gang stalking, drug infested area, um, openly, because there had been getting a lot of stuff. And when you target a super empath, you don't you have going to investigate, and most of the time we don't need to do a lot of energy will give, and that drives people with the cluster B cocktail. It drives them absolutely nuts. And so these people, and I've mentioned this before, that my um, pursuers have are one of them definitely went to a psychosis. The other one um, has multiple personalities. So I don't. Then she's the succubus. So, and each one is a very toxic feminine. But they think that they're divine or whatever. I mean, and that's on them. But you cannot. And both of them, they seek out to hold prisoner to them, bind themselves to people who are, because we are usually the black sheep, we are usually the loners, we are usually the ones who have spent 10, 20 years, sometimes comfortably, by ourselves, loving ourselves, learning, gaining wisdom on a spiritual journey. And, it's, I believe now, a destiny. It's our destination to run into one of these guys, one of these narcissistic sociopaths. Pardon me. For the purpose of enhancing our spiritual growth and cleaning our anything that was grafted, any toxicity, any viruses, any diseases, any molds, any funguses, right? Any parasitic symbiotic, like there's some mushrooms that will cling on to trees, and but they it's a partnership. It's not parasitic. And parasitic symbiotic relationship means that one is taking more from the other and there is no benefit for the host, basically. Then perhaps, right? They hate for you to tell your story. So if you tell your story, that puts it's not that you're attacking them per se, but another thing that I have noticed, and that I've realized and I've shared in my classes and one-on-ones with clients is that these the cluster B personalities are a Borg reptilian archon whatever group. Okay, so what one feels, the old everybody in that network also feels. I watched something on Prime called I think Time something. Let me not even try. Let me not try to remember. But I watched a TV show and it was beautiful and I absolutely loved it. And watched the whole series or the first season. And what I found interesting was, and don't quote me on terms, but there was this higher level spiritual being, female, and she was a male was bound to her, and I forget what he's called, but he is her protector. They feel what each other's feel, so they're psychically linked. The reason why the cluster B personality is a very good actor actress. Okay, and since I am focused on Black LGBTQ, um, I stress females because I have to point out, that the succubuses, the abusers, so I'm dealing with two women who have cluster B personalities, demonic attachments, they're witches, and they're also sex traffickers and sexual predators. So, and not just with adults, with children, because these are the type of people, these are the type of creatures with such severe character disturbances. Sociopaths do not have boundaries, right? They don't believe that they need to have boundaries. They see something and they go for it. I was just reflecting before I started this podcast, I was just reflecting on how when I had moved in with Olga Texador, after staying 3 nights on the streets and asking for help on Facebook and, not knowing anything, was just terrified of out of my mind, you know. Um, talk about a hard gulp pride swallower. And she made it, she said, oh, I understand. You can stay here. You don't have to pay anything. Just, yeah, I know how it is. I'll just, take your time. You can stay here as long as you want, is what she said. Just take your time and so you can get on your feet. Well, that gradually changed because narcissists like, it's a thin, I say cluster B cocktail because it doesn't matter if you were diagnosed with narcissism, you were also a sociopath. If you were also a sociopath with narcissistic characteristics as well, then you also have psychopathy. If you also have psychopathy, and see, the thing of it is, in this country, right, everybody else in other countries knows that this is a cocktail. of demons, right? It's only America because they're billing for each diagnosis, right? Like they prescribe you a pill and all and cluster all these things all in, with all these healing properties of this one pill. I used to take Paxil, right? It's a if you had stage fright or whatever, it would help you with your anxiety, right? Now it did so many other things afterwards. They repackaged it, rebranded it, right? And they do that with every pill that comes out. So I took myself off of it because it wasn't the I didn't need medication. I needed energetic healing. That was for me personally. I needed to understand what I know now. I needed to know then, right? So that's why we really have to tap out of the matrix, because you have to understand this is their world, and our attempts to try and make it better. Now, don't quote me on this, because I'm still asking for, and I won't say too much, I'm still asking for guidance and wisdom, because I asked the Most High God, like, okay, so because these cluster B cocktails, right, are entities, they're housing entities. And I've said this in other podcasts, Phoenixes, that when our spirit guides do not possess us, when you are dealing with demons, demonic entities, they take over and overpower the vessel. Our spirit guides and angels do not take over or overpower us. They may shapeshift in order to save us from a car accident. They may envelop us in order to keep, something from falling on us. They may even push us out of the way, cause us to trip and fall and have a lesser accident. You see what I'm saying? But they're going to talk to us first. They're going to say it. I remember I was coming home, the 12-step meeting that I was at had ended, and I was on, but before it had ended, there was a woman that was whispering in my ear, and it could have been my auntie. Like I said, my auntie has been with me for a long time, and she is Celtic. She is of a higher, um, well, she's Celtic. So anyway, and that's always been in my blood. I don't care what anybody else says. It's always been in my blood. But anyway, so she was talking to me, and I heard her clear as day because my heart chakra was open. And that's what happens when you're vulnerable and you allow yourself to be, in that kind of your strength. I had a counselor tell me one time, your strength is in your vulnerability, and I understood what she said, what she meant when I, what going through my dark night of the soul, my doing shadow work on the streets and stuff like this, right? When I was homeless for 3 years. So anyway, the my auntie had said, take this way home, right? I heard her clear as day, because my vibration, when you're vulnerable, it raises your vibration, because now you're not on the defense. So I took a different way home. I just kind of glided into it, right? And I found this wallet, and this lady in a wheelchair, motorized wheelchair, had gone to one of these, like a Salvation Army, like a secondhand clothing store or whatever, and she was looking for it while she was in the store. I was behind her, probably about 5 minutes. So she got her thing back, and the guy said in there, that was nothing but God, right? So sometimes it's not sometimes, all the time, it behooves us to get out of our funk. That's why I'm such a big person on clearing your chakra. If you can, without any damage to your health, and the Most High God guides you to, fast. What fasting does, it's not just about youth and whatever, it's the clarity of the mind. You understand? It's that clarity of the mind. When I am keeping myself from lower vibratory foods, especially, like even if you're fasting, just fast from eating, nachos. Like that was a big thing for me. Fast from eating cheese, fast from eating your comfort foods for a week, and watch everything clear up. Try and walk a mile. If you can't walk a mile, do 20 squats. Do something, right, to enhance yourself. So anyway, that when we're dealing with cluster B personalities, their attitude is, the more you fight me, the more I'm going to punish you. And the more that I punish you, the more I'm going to block you, because trauma ends up, um, psychological trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma. It blocks physical trauma blocks your meridians, so it blocks the circulation, it blocks the flow, the natural process of your body to be able to connect with the most divine inside of you, which also connects your kind of hinders your relationship with the Most High, because now if your neurological system is off because you've had trauma, right, or you've been under stress, and so now your other brain in your gut brain, your gut heart, right, is off kilter because it's having to process and spew out, trying to find a way to filter out, like, for the last, and I'll be honest, for the last oh my God, because they've been trying to sabotage my job again and stuff like that, and I get tired. It's the same old story, same old story. But again, I am that transformational NARC coach who is going to share with you every bit of detail, because I know that somebody is going to listen to these, and that's why I'm being blocked, because again, they don't want you telling your story, because one, telling your story frees you and puts you in a state of healing. When you are in a state of healing, you are comforted by the Most High God and your spiritual team. When you are comforted by them, that allows you time to rest and recuperate and raise up your vibration, which is something that they do not want you to do. The whole thing is for you to be defeated. So you have to persevere. I was telling the Most High, I was like, you know what, Most High God, it's like I do this all the time, and I can feel myself more and more and more losing momentum, maybe even feeling like I've lost passion, right? And we go through that because when this is their natural state, because they are the cocktail of narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy, antisocial, histrionic, borderline personality, bipolar, right? Anti, I think I said, yeah. So they're a cocktail of character disturbances, not mental illness. Somebody said, oh, these are mental illnesses. No, they're character disturbances. They're demons, period. It's an open and shut case, because when you have that type of cocktail, you don't care whether it's a child or whether it's male or female, whether it's even an animal. They're going to engage in their perverse desires as much as they want to, and by you resisting them and you winning against them, right? There's so many times I've shared this in my story that when I was homeless, that I could feel myself raising, and God would not allow me to go to the next level. Of course not, because He's not going to prepare you to fail. The cluster B personality wants you to fail. But one thing I told the Most High God is like, you know what? It's hard to continue to persevere when everything that I have accomplished, I can't even look back. I feel like I can't even look back at it anymore. When you have people, some that you don't even know, some that you have left, you never even had a relationship with, right? Whether you've had a relationship with them or not, you have been obedient and you've left and you've moved on, and you've hoped that that was the end of it, and it's not. It's not. I will say this, it's not with these guys, and the reason why is because they are competitive, and they're competitive for no reason, right? They're competitive. They don't have any reason to. They will start stuff with people, and I've watched this happen. I'm not exaggerating. They will start stuff with people because they are intimidated by their aura, right? You guys have watched Dragon Ball or any type of Harry Potter where they've seen into their aura and they've seen their spiritual power. When you think that you're weak because maybe you don't look the part, maybe you're fat, maybe you got crooked teeth, or cockeyed or something like that. So you don't fit this American standard of beauty, right? You don't fit the American standard of beauty. And that's one thing that the cluster B personality, these character disturbed creatures, will do when especially when you're in a relationship. They will siphon POCs have been revealing themselves as having up the mantle for white supremacy. This is their change of the guard, right? Because when people automatically assume that just because this person is a quote under the umbrella of person of color, of clay, if he made man out of his image, then what does that mean? That that God was black. I didn't write it. Somebody else did. But we don't translate it. That's why it's a good thing to kind of meditate. But anyway, do not give up. I know, back to what I was in my God talk, and I was telling the Most High, I was like, you know what, I'm really tired of constantly not getting this chance to rest like my body is feeling it. I've had them attack my body where they're trying to immobilize me. Okay, so before I moved where I was, it was really bad because they will take over locations to do the sex trafficking and prostitution and drug dealing and whatever. And uh and uh they will literally rent rooms, or so they'll rent a motel room up, back and front. We all know that what goes on in motel rooms. They'll say, but that's why I would play my frequencies and I would do my chakras and whatever. But what they learned is that I am okay with being by myself. I have already resolved that I am not going to have a partner, right? I mean, like, it's okay. It's not a bad thing for me, right? This is what I was this is what was supposed to happen, right? It's not. So anytime they think that they're doing something, they're doing you a disservice, right? And then it backfires on them. Then they got to think of something else. But it would be frustrating when they're sabotaging just even you know um, running relationships, you know, because they want you to be punished. They want you to feel. They want you to feel they want to basically it's just a punish trying to punish you. I'm going to punish you for leaving me. I'm going to punish you for moving. I remember when I moved, there was such, I could hear telepathically. And a lot of times when we have telepathic communication, it's somebody who's hacked into our wiring, if I'm saying that right. Forgive my speech. They've hacked into our wiring. I had the succubus who was literally, I watched her because I have all the clairs, and I watched them beat down my crown chakra, so I know that's a real thing. Because they're like, oh, wait a minute, she's getting all these downloads, dude. That's what's making her super intelligent. That's why how she knows when we're gonna attack her. Da 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 da. So, and I did see when you're clearing your chakras, the Sahasrara chakra is shown as, I think, like 1,000 petals, because it is your crown. So I forget what flower it reminds me of, but it's shown as that flower, right? So all those petals are actually another word, but I'm not going to get into that because I'm still studying. Um, but it is a purplish blue violet flame, and I saw them like literally snuffing it out, right? We don't want you. So when you have people who you don't know, you don't spend time with, or you had a brief encounter with, and you're gone and you're doing whatever you're supposed to do with your life, and they keep chasing after you, right? Saul chased after David. Was it Saul that chased after David for how many flipping years? Because of his jealousy. He chased after this way, and I think it was because he slept with his wife or whatever. So he did something to that effect. Don't, please go look it up, please. um but that was brought up to me too. It's like, look, Saul chased after David. These people have been chasing after me, the succubus and the pedophile, the female pedophile, have been chasing after me collectively for 15 years. And I know that that sounds hard to believe. It's like, well, how would you get through that? By the grace of God, because I wasn't supposed to survive. So think of this. Instead of when you think, oh, well, gosh, I just can't keep going on, reflect back on what you've come through. God had to remind, because they'll make you feel as if that energy. So the reason why they isolate you, the reason why they're throwing all these witchcraft spells and freeze jar spells and end of the road spells and throwing all this negativity, putting your picture on voodoo dolls and any type of effigy, and even astral projecting to you and trying to cause you physical harm. Because our mind is a hologram where we create. So think of The Sims. You can create a world, right? They're creating a world in their mind where they are the victor over you and they are beating you. That's what with Olga Texador, I actually watched her do that. Like, she couldn't tell. She was so used to going inside her, she could do it like that. She could astral project out of her body. She could project herself. There was one time where she was trying to make somebody crazy, and she was, rolling her eyes back in her head, and she was looking at me while she was doing it, but she wasn't present, and it was the most scary thing that I have ever seen. So I got a lot from her, with her being involved with the Northaniels and them using witchcraft, and her admitting that they were taking over all of California and all this Azlatan and all this other kind of stuff, right? So that's how they're justifying doing the drug dealing and the sex trafficking and the murdering and raping and kidnapping of black children and black women, right? And that's where that's her fetish, is black women, dark skinned black women or kids, right? So they don't, when they realize that you're not easily intimidated or that you will fight through the fear, then they have to suppress you. So anyway, they go through this witchcraft to try, and I know her tactics are to suppress you. So they're going to try and encase you. I literally saw in the spirit realm, I'd moved already, and I was like really shocked that she was able to project herself to me, like that. It was hard. I could tell that it was hard for her because she didn't have easy access. And I know that this may sound, you know crazy to some people, but until you've gone through it, it's like people. I've heard many people say, look, I wouldn't have known what gang stalking was until it happened to me, right? So so in sense then, so when I'm telling you guys, look back at where you've come from. When you start to get depressed, because they're trying to infect you with that depression, because they're trying to stop your progress and erase any evidence of you having progress. That's like with black people in a whole, right? Who stole our legacy? And then trying to erase the legacy by hiding all those scriptures, right? Hiding all those sacred texts. But you have people that they get paid to study this stuff. They get paid to mimic. Where now somebody else is calling themselves chosen that were never in the area, right? So it's that same narcissism, it's that same character disturbance, that same delusional, that same, what I deserve this, you don't, you know, that Cain and Abel kind of thing. That, why am I not accepted and you are? And then know how frustrating it is, because when you think back at it, because most of us are just, if you're anything like me, I keep to myself. I'll read, I listen to music that gets me off, right? But once they find out what does it, they don't want you to be happy at all. They want you to be dull and bored, just null and void of any emotion. And that's what I've realized with a lot of these cluster bees that I'm dealing with. I do have the bus is very emotional, but she has no type of real true emotions. Okay, so when you're dealing with people who she doesn't feel anything. I was dealing with the Northaniels and their witchcraft, and everybody that I meet, being told, being having my name slandered and embarrassed it for the longest time until I finally took my name back and took my birthright back. Right. And I remember, so every time I do a podcast and say, hey, I just took my birthright back, and I can teach you how to. I can teach you how to reclaim what was yours. Right. And the way that you reclaim what is yours is that you do your work, you find out who you are, you uncover yourself, you excavate down to your authentic self. And then you get to, I remember when I first looked at myself in the mirror, and I just looked at myself and said, I love you. I mean, and I really meant it. You know how long it took 20 years to get to that point of loving myself. I have always had issues with my weight. I have always had issues with people staying and not leaving and abandoning me, right? To the point where I just stopped having relationships. First, I was not having relationships because of the way that my family treated me. I felt, well, if like literally, because my dad was a cluster B personality and everybody else around him was flying monkeys, they still talk shit about him today, but you know what? They won't say it to his face because he's prone to go get a gun and shoot somebody. Again, the no boundaries thing. So they were very content with, him using me as a punching bag, and say, "Oh, come over. Even though you tried to kill me one time, go ahead and come over. Even though you ripped the hair out of my scalp, come over." And somehow I was taking on his burdens, right? But his sins are not my sins. And when you get to that spiritual level where you can start cutting people out, because I did the work, they didn't. I did the work, they didn't. My family has never called me for when I had a heart attack. My family's never called me. When I was homeless, my family has never called me. I've always contacted them. I had one aunt that used to do it until I found out, and she said something. She's like, that she was like mad because I kept surviving. They didn't come looking for me. Do you know how hurtful that is to hear? And then you have somebody who is a cluster B personality who misuses their abilities to abuse and terrify and control empaths, black sheep. So when you get frustrated, when you understand what their tactics are and who they are, right? Don't. It seems a little bit easier, but what I want you to Phoenixes to do, those of you who are frustrated, those of you who, are having a hard time sleeping because you're still being attacked. Hold on. Right? So because you're still being attacked, because you're still not where you were going, or you feel like you have to keep going backwards. That's not you, that's them. That's why I said when you do your work, you can, and you stop taking on other people. Part of people pleasing isn't just the verbal, physical, in this temporal world. Sometimes it's in your mind, it's in your spirit. And I still piss people off because I'm not taking, people keep trying to humble me, right? And that's what happens, especially if you're a black female. And I get it from black men. Well, they'll complain to the other POC men of other cultures. I've had that happen on a job where a black guy was sleeping, literally sleeping on the job, and I had to step in. I'm on one side and he's working another side, and I had to step in and let her that was what I was just told. And and this guy's oh yes, yes, she knows, she really exerts herself. And I wasn't being rude, I wasn't being vulgar. See, they're used to women who are manipulative and will say yes and yes and yes, and go back and put their period blood in the food. And you know what I'm saying? That's what they want. That's what they want. And I had this same guy would sit there and smile in my face and, oh hey, how you doing, sis? No, we're not related, right? So when you are able to identify the tactics or whatever, and you're able to, and that's what scares people. It's like, I get tired of being bullied. I get tired of being the one that's ostracized. All I want is people to love me. All I want is to be loved. All I want is to be safe. and protected and stable, right? If it's not cluster B personalities in our personal lives, in our personal circles, the country that we live in is a cluster B personality. That's the way it was created. It was hijacked by cluster B personalities. You can't have over 60 billion people die because of the color of their skin, or and they're worked to death and still called lazy. Who does that? Who says that to somebody? Right? So let me get a notebook when you feel like giving up, because I know, and I know many of us are healing. This time has felt like it's Mercury retrograde, and Mercury retrograde has been over, right? And I felt like there's timelines that keep coming, right? Like there's a stretching of lines, and it's a real weird thing. Not sure. Stop. Stop it. All right, sorry. There's some commotion outside. My babies are upset. Okay. So anyway, so when you get to understand it, and when you still stand your ground, they're going to use any type of social pressure, racial pressure, gender pressure. I've watched them do it too many times. It is their go-to, especially. But when they realize that that doesn't work, they're just going to try and do the financial pressure. Because who's now doesn't? I mean, everybody that I know, especially Black women, are having to work 2, 3 jobs just to survive, without kids, not having any kids to raise, right? So, book, how big or small it is, top accomplished things that I am proud of myself for. Like, I'm proud of myself for getting off the streets. 3 years of me trying and prostitute me, trying to attack me. I had them psychically, "Oh, you ain't nothing, you ain't da, 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 da," right? And I still got off the streets. I had reached my goal weight, even while I was when we got off the streets, and we was still working. And I so you think about these things. It's like I broke generational curses for up to for less than 10 generations, through taking on that work that spiritually I was asked to do, right? I was able to cut out members of the family that are toxic and have no business: the rapists, the child molesters, the cluster Bs, right? Because why? I was able to identify them. I have a sister who collected golden child, who collected insurance money. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but she collected insurance money off of my mother's death. And come to find out that her and one of my other brothers, who I didn't grow up with, so I don't know, but I am the oldest, but they kept me out. And when I asked them what happened, because I knew that something was off, right? I talked to my mother, and I knew that I take after her in that she's too tenacious. She's too um she could have lived a lot longer. She could have lived a lot longer, right? And when I asked them, they were like, "Oh no," right? "Oh no, we don't know. We got tight lip, right?" So I'm grateful, and the thing that I accomplished there was not going crazy, because I was on the streets and I was working 60 hours a week, 66 hours a week actually, overtime, standing on my feet hurting, blistering, swolled, doing 12-hour shifts, 18-hour shifts to make ends meet and to have some money to stash away. You understand? So write everything that you were proud of yourself, that you have accomplished, goals that you met, anything. Clear your chakra. Take that time out. If you, especially the first three, the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and your it's kind of like your sternum, your spleen. But there'll be demonic attachments to that, you know. And I just know because that's what I felt. So don't, please, express your feelings. Write it. And sometimes somebody said something on TikTok today, because I used to journal a lot, and I don't journal as much as I used to, and I think that's because I do a lot of videos, but I don't journal as much as I used to, or write anymore as much as I used to, because I couldn't write out the pain fast enough, right? And I know that most of us, we're feeling that, okay, we're kind of coming out of the trauma, we're kind of coming out of the gang stalking, out of the harassment, out of this all this stuff is kind of going away to the wayside. But it's like, okay, I've been in this battle for so long, right? Like, what do I do? Like, me personally, I do know that I'm on my last leg, and not just like, I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience anymore, right? I'm not interested in a relationship, and people get mad. I've said this before, I've never had people get so mad that I don't even know, people I don't even know, getting mad because I'm celibate, getting mad because I have no desire to be with people that I can't, that are not intellectually stimulating. And now, after going through this battle, it's like it's going to take me from the rest of my life until I transition to purge whatever residual energy. Like, I know that God is a miracle worker, but I mean, like, I woke up today. I woke up, well, yesterday, and caked with whatever witchcraft was being done on me the night before. I have the succubus that keeps trying to bond me to some fucking corpse that she's dug up, or ashes, or of something that she's has, right? Or trying something. It's a corpse, because I've seen it. And I have somebody else that's attached, just like this. It's a skeleton or something. I'm not sure if it's Santa Muerte or what, but they keep sending me these demonic entities, or these dead things. And so, they never stick because they don't have the right. So again, do start doing your gratitude list of 10 things of what you're grateful for, 10 things, 10 that you're, at least, or just free throw it, family and yourself, etc., 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 so that you can go back to it and always reread it when the enemy tries to convince you that, hey, you ain't done nothing, you ain't never gonna be nothing. That's what they told me when I was growing up. I mean, like, literally, that's what I was told. I was told, you ain't gonna be nothing, you ain't nothing anyway. And I tried to make that a prophecy, self-fulfilling prophecy. But the Most High God had something else for me. So think about the time, at that time, that I was wasting, because I was like, okay, this is what they told me I'm supposed to do, right? And being a people pleaser, I was doing what I was told to do to the best of my ability. Now I'm not a people pleaser, so it's not that I'm not going to do what I'm told if I'm working a job. It's just that I'm not going to do what is going to hurt me. Okay, so 10, do a gratitude list of 10 things that you're grateful for, and just write in, I mean, at least 10 things, just for something to start on what you've accomplished. Again, so that in these times where it seems like, God, it's never going to end, when am I able to rest? When is this going to stop? When am I going to get justice? When is am I going the year's going to be renewed? Or, you said that you would redeem the years, just in the meantime, because in the background, we all know this, the angels and our soul tribe and our spirit team are going through it. So what they need is for us to keep that high energy, because that's why, another reason why, multiple reasons why, but another reason why our enemies, and through these cluster B cocktails, are trying to get us to give up, because then we don't get the blessing, and they don't have to be embarrassed and watch. Because if I'm blessed and become what God said I was going to become at a certain time, right? And a lot of us get stuck up, well, I've been going through this for 20 years, and you're telling me to wait another 10 years. I'm that person. I'm that one that's like, you know what? Screw it then. If you're not going to do it, screw it. I've said it, but I'm still going to be obedient. But in the meantime, to record your affirmations and listen to them at night and during the day, so that way you can subconsciously get into your mind, I am beautiful, I am intelligent, I am a survivor, I am a perseverer, right?
Okay, so that's basically all I wanted to share. And I am drained. I know you guys can hear it, but I'm persevering the best I can. Just like you guys are. All right. So I love you, Phoenixes, and remember, your blessings are in your ashes. Rise.